This week on News Time. Wow. This place looks amazing, Ron. I can't believe you changed the whole setup. I love the new wardrobe, and the makeup girl didn't give me any guff when I smacked her on the butt today. What is this? A new sheet? You know how to get me off, bud. God, you get me off so good. Are you getting off? Because I'm getting off. Right now. What? None of this is new? Why'd you let me go on for so long? You made me look like a fool. You're never going to get me off. No, you know I don't hear myself saying that. Get your mind out of the gutter. I'm so distracted by not getting off. I don't know what this news time is about. Let me see the script. Tax incentives for movie productions? How boring is this going to be? You know I don't come to rehearsal because it's for nerds and cool guys like me that get off like to wing it. At least roll into the intro. It's the same one?
It's news time. Delivering to you the news you didn't know about, the news you didn't care about, and the news you didn't know you cared about. With host, Chad White. Now, here's that host, Chad White.
This episode may be about incentives, but I'll find some way to title it The Implication. That just got me off. Oh, now I hear it. Welcome back to News Time. I'm your host, Chad White, and this is the comedy news that you didn't know about. The news is slow, and I'm admittedly stretching into my idea backlog to find something interesting to talk about. That's why I landed on the hot, the sexy, the thing that's definitely going to get you off. I hear it. Tax incentives. Wait. Don't turn off the computer, Mabob. Tax incentives are great. If you live in an area where movies and shows are shot all the time, then you'll benefit from them too. Tourism, the possible celebrity sighting at your local coffee establishment, those are what you can look forward to when it comes to the sweet, sexy tax incentives. Wait, don't turn it off. God, we have got to get that clicker away from you. Tax incentives can be super cool. They're important to getting your favorite things made. Marvel movies would look less shiny without the cheap shooting area that is Atlanta. Procedurals like Lethal Weapon would have to find other grimy cities to shoot in other than Los Angeles. Chicago wouldn't be a battleground in most blockbusters such as Transformers: Dark of the Moon. Tax incentives are what allows for these movies to be made, allowing for money to be allocated elsewhere. Let's get down into the nitty-gritty of what tax incentives are. They're movie production incentives, or TV show production incentives, whatever, that cities and states use to encourage productions to shoot there. By moving production to a city, providing such attractive qualities, a company would be able to save a bit of change on taxes owed. While they may sound easy to come by, they weren't always. Production incentives began in the 90s when show and movies took their businesses to Canada. The government grew concerned over the increasing amount of runaway productions, which are a whole different thing, but basically boil down to shows and movies that are meant to release in the U.S. only to be shot elsewhere due to attractive foreign subsidies. Canada was so popular to shoot in during this period that the country started Entertainment Partners, a production services tax credit program, in 1997. Under its Canada Film Capital banner, the company has been number one in the business for incentives and financing productions. Once states saw productions leaving the continental United States, some decided to go up their game to reattract what they once had. Beignet enthusiast and crawfish daddy Louisiana was the first to reignite the flame. In 2002, the southern state increased incentives and saw a return of shows and movies. Partially related, a lot of those movies won Oscars. Ray, Monsters Ball, Big Mama's House 2. These are the masterworks that took advantage of the new tax breaks allotted in the state. We've gone over why a state would want to give an incentive, and we've basically covered why production wants an incentive. Yet, we don't know what kind of incentives there are. I mentioned the most popular one several times already, tax breaks. These breaks, or credits, allow states to cover a bit of the production's income tax costs. Then there are cash rebates in which states actually give back a portion of the money the production spent. Then there are grants which function in the same way they do for a scientist or student looking for funding. Next we have sales tax and lodging exemptions, which are exactly what they sound like. And finally, fee-free locations. If you want to read further into the state tax for movie productions, check out AJ's post on Studio Binder. Each state is different on what it offers. It can give one or two incentives, but it's in the state's best interest to limit itself. Check out this chart from the Hollywood Reporter. You can see Georgia gives tax credits where it pays the state income taxes of productions. Conversely, Texas gives out grants, so it chooses how much award money a production will get. Washington likes to offer rebates, but you'll notice a lot of states offer nothing in return. Here's a very important point to remember. A lot, if not all of these states require minimum spending. Again, it's different for each one, and if they don't ask for minimum spending, such as the case in New York, they'll give a good number on incentive percentages while asking for something else closer to the production work itself, like a back end for workers working in certain upstate territories. You can see this as common, but who cares because no one wants to visit these places anyway. You hear that, Arizona? I just took you down a peg. Speaking of visiting places, tourism is a boon for these areas. People are bound to pop over to the street where Captain America ran down or see a building where Optimus Prime ran through or whatever. Can anyone really recall what happens in a blockbuster? There are negatives, however. Just because a production makes its way to your state doesn't necessarily mean jobs will be created. I know from personal experience that only a few positions open up, and if the market is competitive, I won't be getting the position. Also, incentives can be taken back as soon as they're introduced. In an interview with Cinema Blend, Mary Jane Skalski said she was excited for the initial pushes and incentives in her home state of Michigan. They created an economic boom within the state, but when they rolled back, she and her family saw no reason to move home after considering it. People left the state to find work in other incentivized states, and businesses that hired extra help had to let them go. Tax incentives, while boring on the surface, remain boring in depth. Seriously, when you get down to the nitty-gritty details, it's kind of cool to see what different states offer productions. I've got nothing left for this concluding statement. But before I go, I'd like to thank this week's sponsor, Emma Willman. Emma is a great New York comedian who now has her own televised special. She's a part of the new batch of the Comedy Line of specials on Netflix that are dropping on August 31st. She's got a new quarter hour, and let me tell you, I've seen it and I dig it. I was already a fan of Emma before this, but who really cares? She's great. Watch Emma Willman on the Comedy Lineup on August 31st, only on Netflix. And that's all the news I have for you for this week on News Time. Why don't you subscribe and check out one of our other videos? Of course, you can always head to the website cpluscomedy.com, where there's so many great things that it won't be wearing a shirt from college. You can find us on Twitter at cpluscomedy, on Twitter at @BlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Listen to the Constitutionals podcast on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to always know that tax incentives are what make the world go round.